We're talking about Star Wars. So recently, Revenge of the Sith re-released in theaters for its 20-year anniversary. I hadn't seen this movie in forever, so I texted my buddy if he wanted to go see it together. And man, I love this movie. The visual effects, the action, the interactions between the characters. Is the movie kind of campy and corny? Absolutely. But do I still love it? 100%. But as much as I love this movie, it has some major flaws. And then I watched the two ones before it, and let's just say, flaws is an understatement.
I don't like sand.
One thing that is great about Star Wars, and one thing that I will always praise it for, is how it has improved a flawed story over the years. Because when the prequels came out, everyone knew they had issues. Even their greatest defenders knew that a lot of the plot points of the story were not the best. And then enters a man named Dave Filoni with the Clone Wars animated series. A lot of what these animated Star Wars shows set out to do, such as the Clone Wars, the Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, was to patch a lot of holes that were left in the prequels. I don't know if that's what they set out to do, but that's what happened. And the biggest show out of these is the Clone Wars. It takes place in the 3 years between Episode 2 and Episode 3 of Star Wars. And let me just tell you right now, it is some of the best Star Wars that Star Wars has to offer. If you haven't watched the Clone Wars, well, you should. If you like Star Wars, even if you don't like Star Wars, you should really just watch it. If you took out all the Star Wars from the show and just made it some random sci-fi show about like whatever characters, it would still be really good because the storylines in this show are phenomenal. Honestly, the best story arcs of the Clone Wars are better than a lot of the Star Wars movies. And that had me thinking, what if we remade the prequels with everything we now know from the Clone Wars TV show? Character additions, character changes, plot switches. Let's take everything that was good about the animated show and just move it over to the prequels. Just imagine the prequel trilogy is like a giant wall with holes in it, and the Clone Wars is a bit of spackle. And you're just going up, and you're like, and just gotta clean that part. I think that doesn't look too good. That's better. Okay, yeah, we did it. Imagine it. Because I just want to patch up the prequels, not completely change them. As flawed as they are, I do love a lot of the plot points and story beats they set out to achieve. And the story was a good enough base for a better show to come out, The Clone Wars. I mean, the prequels aren't all trash, but they're a lot of trash. Yeah, they're in here all right. So I'm not going to nuke the prequels in favor of just a whole new storyline. That's doing a disservice to all the work the prequels put in. So the big two rules I'm making for this video is that if I want to change something from the prequels, it has to have happened in the Clone Wars or some other extended universe, Star Wars, whatever. The point of this video is not to remake the prequels from scratch. If you want to see that, there are countless videos online of people doing that exact thing. And rule number 2 is that we are not getting rid of the Clone Wars. There's so much that happens in the Clone Wars. If you put everything that happened in the Clone Wars in the prequel movies, the prequels would be like 10 hours long each. And Clone Wars is basically perfect as it is, so we're just leaving it as it is, like it's its own entity. We don't need to change anything. So if you still want to watch the prequels and not the Clone Wars, that's totally fine. Like the prequels will still be good as movies on their own, but just watching the Clone Wars with it will bring it to the next level. It's kind of like Andor and Rogue One. You know how they're both fine shows by themselves, show and movie, but then once you put them together, it's like that scene from Ratatouille when you're eating the stuff and it goes, What was I talking about? But that's all I want to talk about for now. So now let's dive into what the prequels would have been, knowing what we know now from the Clone Wars. So the first bridge we have to cross is the dialogue of these movies. Like I stated in the intro, I don't want to completely rewrite these movies, because the base storyline is pretty good. Ain't not bad. And the actors are truly great. You have phenomenal actors like Liam Neeson, Christopher Lloyd, Natalie Portman, and actors that at the time weren't so popular, but were thrusted into stardom because of these movies. Ian McGregor and especially Hayden Christensen were actors that were well known, but not nearly as much as they are now thanks to the Star Wars movies. So if all the actors are so good, then why are they all acting like my high school crush after our first date? Bored and uninterested. Well, it's all because of this man, Daddy George. But even though it was because of him, I kind of hesitate to say it's his fault. Let me explain. So when the prequel movies were being made, George Lucas actually didn't want to direct them. See, Lucas's directing style was very unique. His directing history consists of mainly experimental short films. And aside from the Star Wars movies, he's only directed 2 movies that aren't short films. And from the original trilogy, Lucas only directed A New Hope. The other 2 movies were directed by someone else, where he was a producer and helped write the script. And honestly, if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense when it comes to A New Hope. Like, we all consider it a classic now, but when it first came out, it was nothing like we had ever seen before. It honestly sounds like something a stoner college kid would come up with. Like, imagine you've never heard of Star Wars, and some random guy goes up to you and says, yeah, bro, so it's about, like, this kid who, like, lives on a moisture farm, and there's this thing called the Galactic Empire, and they all wear, like, these black helmets, and, like, well, some got white helmets, and they have these swords, but the swords are made out of light, and they can, like, fight, and then they can, like, grab things, but not, like, with their hands, like with something called the Force. So when it came to the prequels, Lucas actually did not want to direct them, but neither did anyone else. He asked 3 different directors if they wanted to direct, and they all turned him down. He was basically the cute girl in high school that all of his friends hyped up. They were all like, no, you make the movie, but you're so good at making the movies. We wouldn't do as good of a job as you are at making a movie. You should do it. Meanwhile, we're on the back being like, please, George, don't listen to them. Please. George, please. Please. All this to say, George's directing style didn't really fit with what the prequels needed. I mean, the line delivery is just all over the place. They're all pretty bad, but this line, this one in particular, we'll talk more about it later, but this line, bro. Don't even. But something I felt the Clone Wars did exceptionally well was fixing up a lot of the characters. And what I mean by that is that they're actually likable now. Anakin is now a fantastic character. He's probably my favorite in the entire show. We'll get more into why later, but oh my goodness, the characters are so much better in this show. This Anakin is an annoying drill bit that complains and makes no sense half the time. And this Anakin's the bee's knees. And this isn't an isolated incident either. All the things that make me like the prequel characters, Padme's adaptability and resourcefulness, Obi-Wan's silver tongue, heck, the clones being actual characters. It doesn't come from the movies, but rather the TV show.
I thought I told you not to follow me, Master Kenobi?
Yes, well, I took a lesson from Anakin and decided not to follow orders.
Hey.
We'll go into more detail on how each character's improved, but just know these are the Star Wars characters I want in the prequels. Something I feel like is very important for the prequels is to make sure that the Jedi are very stupid. So I'm not a huge Star Wars nerd. I mean, obviously I'm big enough of a nerd to make an hour-long video about the prequels, but I mean, I'm not that crazy. But what I understand about Star Wars lore is that there was an era of the Jedi where they were at the top of their game. There was this 1,000-year war between the Sith and the Jedi, where they were both showing up in full numbers and full force. And this war ended with the Jedi defeating the Sith with something called a thought bomb. Yeah, a thought bomb. It's kind of stupid. Hey, Luke for the future here. Just a little correction when I was editing this video. It turns out it was not the Jedi who made the thought bomb. It was actually the Sith. Apparently some Sith made it so that way they could... Because there was like 1 billion Sith and they wanted to put in the party of 2, the rule of 2 rule, and so they killed all the other Siths. Or something like that. I don't know, man. This isn't canon anyways. This is probably going to change in a few years, because this is all legend stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And this thought bomb defeats basically every single one of the Sith, making them go extinct. Between that weapon going off and the Phantom Menace, over 1,000 years go by. All this to say, the Sith haven't been seen in like 1,000 years. That's a hot second. So keeping this all in mind, it adds a huge sense of scale to the prequels and to Revenge of the Sith, because after 1,000 years, the Sith are finally getting revenge. Revenge of the Sith. With a thought bomb. Still a stupid name. And this 1,000 years of no Sith really fed the Jedi's ego. They're all like, nah, dude, the Sith are gone. We've had peace for longer than most of us have been alive. Except for Yoda. Who freaking knows how old that guy is? So when Qui-Gon Jinn shows up in the first movie and says, yo, I just fought a guy with a red lightsaber who could use the Force, I think he's a Sith. The Jedi don't go, oh my goodness, we are Sith, we gotta go, this guy goes, he's back, they're back, they're back! No, literally the second thing the council says after Qui-Gon Jinn tells them this is, no, I think we would know if a Sith would be back. They've been gone for like 1,000 years. I think we would know. Thank you so much. I think we're good. They've been on a winning streak for so long that even the idea of a Sith coming back without them knowing is an impossibility. That is an element that is so important to the downfall of the Jedi. I'm sure we've all heard of the term pride before the fall. The Jedi feel untouchable and invincible, and it needs to be this way for a certain character to see the flaws of the Jedi and how it's affecting people, and to make the certain character very angry. Because if you had a perfect system, the system wouldn't fall. So yeah, the Jedi suck, and we gotta keep it that way. So now we talk about specific character changes. But honestly, there's only really 2 characters I really want to focus on. With most of the characters, you can just slap a coat of Clone Wars paint and call it a day. But there are 2 characters in particular that need just like a special bit of attention because of how much the animated series added to them. And there'll be a few footnotes on some other characters later. But first, let's talk about the main man himself. I went to go get a drink while I was filming this video. I was gonna go get a green tea, but this is taking longer than I expected, so we upgraded. So, Mazel Tov! I don't know if Mazel Tov's the term, but whatever. Not sponsored, by the way, but frick if these aren't good. Hey. So the thing about Anakin in this show is that he's completely likable now.
Bravo, Anakin. You've done it again.
Oh, I can't take all the credit. Your state of helplessness really sold them on my surrender talk.
Always glad to help, my friend.
Clone Wars did Anakin so good that when I went back to watch the prequels, I didn't realize how boring and lame he is in those movies. I don't hate this version of Anakin as much as most people do, but then I realized all the things I like about Anakin are not from the prequels, but from this very show. Because Anakin in this show is flippin' awesome. I mean, first of all, he's just a straight up hero now. He's incredibly capable, he kicks butt, he's confident, but he's very much not your ideal Jedi. Like, he kills a lot of people in this show. A lot. And when he does, he rarely shows remorse. Why? Because he sees it as a necessary evil. The easiest solution for Anakin in so many situations is just to kill someone. In the Clone Wars TV show, there's a scene with Obi-Wan Kenobi where he has to make a very hard decision about his morality or letting an innocent be killed. But don't worry about it, Anakin solved it for you. He just zip zip and it was fine. Wow, what a guy. That good old Anakin Skywalker.
Anakin.
What? He was gonna blow up the ship.
So while Anakin is not the ideal Jedi, he is not evil. And that is a very important distinction. And there are two things that lead to Anakin's downfall to the dark side in the Clone Wars, or two major things. Those two major things are the fear of losing the people he loves and the incompetence of the Jedi. We need both of those things to make his downfall make sense. His fear of loss was already established in Episode 2, where his mother was killed by the Tusken Raiders. Ever since then, he refuses to let people he cares about die and will do anything he can do to stop that. Which in theory is a noble ideal, but an unrealistic one. You can't stop people from dying and getting hurt. That applies in the Star Wars universe and in the real world. But Anakin refuses that reality. He will go to whatever extremes he can to make sure that people do not die and lets his anger and let his fear get the best of him. There's a phenomenal storyline in the Clone Wars where Obi-Wan fakes his death to go undercover, but Anakin doesn't know this and thinks he's actually dead. And we get to see Anakin go full dark side here. I mean, he literally kicks the guy in the nuts. If that ain't dark side, I don't know what is. There's an arc where Anakin has to fight against slavers, and he goes nuts! There's an arc where someone tries to get with Padme, and he almost beats this guy to death.
Get away from her.
Just a little side note, in this arc, this guy challenges Anakin Skywalker to a fight. Both no lightsabers, he's just like hand to hand. Bro, are you stupid? Have you not seen Anakin? Stupid. And while all these things are happening, the dark side is slowly drawing him in. And the Jedi Council isn't really helping either. He has this fear of losing people, but when he talks to the Jedi about it, they basically tell him to shrug it off. Even when he talks to Obi-Wan about his secret, not-so-secret relationship, Obi-Wan basically tells him, it's just the life of a Jedi, relationships. Tough luck, brother. So not only are the Jedi failing Anakin on his emotional side, but they're also failing him on the political side as well. Politics in my Star Wars, shut up! He thinks that the methods of the Jedi are not enough to end the war. All the rules of the Jedi he has to be aware of, taking the passive way to solve issue, it leads to incompetency.
But we aren't soldiers. We're peacekeepers. The Jedi Code often prevents us from going far enough to achieve victory.
And this all culminates with the end of Clone Wars Season 5. Something that the Clone Wars did that was amazing was give Anakin a Padawan, Ahsoka Tano. The relationship that gets built between these two characters is so good. But in Season 5 of the Clone Wars, there's a terrorist bombing at the Senate, and Ahsoka gets framed. Anakin believes she is innocent, but the Jedi don't see it that way, and they actually take away her Jedi status so she can be tried as a citizen. In her trial, she's found guilty and almost given the death sentence. So Anakin has to go on his own little side quest to prove she's innocent. But the damage has been done. They offer Ahsoka her Jedi status again, but she doesn't want it. She feels betrayed, and so does Anakin. So Ahsoka leaves the Jedi Order forever. Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order and almost dying at the hands of the Jedi absolutely destroys Anakin. Once again, he's losing someone he loves. Throughout the entire Clone Wars TV show, Anakin has seen so much of the incompetence of the Jedi, and this is a huge factor in that. Because by the time we get to Revenge of the Sith, Anakin should already be pretty over the Jedi. Or at the bare minimum, very aware of their flaws. Anakin's turn to the dark side should not be something that comes out of nowhere, but rather something that's been building and boiling up for a very long time. And all he needs now is someone that he trusts to swoop in and just be that final Jenga piece. And that's why we can't just get rid of the Clone Wars and meld them into these movies. For Anakin's turn to make sense, it needs to take time. And there are elements from the Clone Wars we can put into the prequels to help that make sense. One of the most wasted characters in all of Star Wars is without a doubt Count Dooku. When he shows up in the prequels, he kind of shows up out of nowhere. I mean, he's not in the first movie whatsoever. We had this really cool villain named Maul, but he just got murked in the last episode. So, I mean, like, who's going to replace him? Enter the Count Dooku. And what do we know about Sir Dooku? Nothing. We know nothing about this guy. Okay, that's fine, you know, we're just gonna throw him in a movie and whatever. But, like, he probably has a really cool introduction scene, right? Or, like, some background so we get to know him, right? Right? Oh, it's in the title crawl? Are you serious? Are you for real right now? I didn't realize your brand new villain, played by Sir Christopher Lee, no less. That's right, he's a Sir, was just introduced as a footnote in your way too long intro. I'm sorry, do we have no honor here? Do we have no respect? All of this is a huge shame, because I love Count Dooku's story. And the reason I love it so much is because it's a precursor to Anakin's story. I don't know if most people actually know this, but Count Dooku was actually a Jedi once. He was trained by Yoda, trained Qui-Gon Jinn, and was a very well-respected and capable Jedi. But with all that in mind, he definitely had some issues on how the Jedi handled things. This is all touched on in the Tales of the Jedi series, so I won't go into too much detail about it here. But the most important thing we need to take from this series is what happens to Qui-Gon Jinn and how that eventually affects Dooku's storyline. Like we said before, Qui-Gon Jinn was Dooku's apprentice, and in The Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon goes to the Council and tells them about his encounter with the Sith Lord, and they don't believe him. But what we didn't know is that this entire time, Count Dooku knew about the plot of the Sith, and the Jedi didn't believe him either. All this culminates with Qui-Gon dying at the hands of a Sith, and Dooku feeling betrayed because the Jedi did not heed his warning. All this could have been avoided if the Jedi just listened to him. At this point, Dooku was already doing things for the Emperor because he already lost his faith. But the death of Qui-Gon was the final thing to put it over the edge, the final straw in seeing the flaws of the Jedi. So we have this tragic backstory of Count Dooku that gives us a better attachment to him and to Qui-Gon, and it leaves us with one question. Why wasn't it in the movie? You have the perfect build-up for this character that is tragic and fascinating and interesting and makes you actually like the character, and then you're just not going to put it in the movie. Excuse me? What I'm assuming happened is that when they were writing The Phantom Menace, they just hadn't thought of this character yet, or maybe, I don't know, Christopher Lee hadn't put it in his audition tape yet. Who's to say? But still, that's such a lousy excuse. But the craziest part about Count Dooku's entire storyline is that he does not realize this entire time he's getting played. In Attack of the Clones, he tells Obi-Wan everything. How Palpatine is controlling things from behind the scenes, how the Senate is corrupt and the Jedi aren't able to see it. I mean, he literally offers a team up between him and Obi-Wan to take on the Emperor. That they could rule the galaxy better than Palpatine could, that he's doing this for the greater good, that he's a good guy. But Obi-Wan doesn't believe him. So Dooku continues his little Sith Lord journey, doing everything the Emperor needs, but all for him just to be a pawn in the turning of Anakin Skywalker. And nowhere is this better iterated than in the Revenge of the Sith novel I literally bought just for this video. As he looks up into the eyes of Anakin Skywalker for the final time, Count Dooku knows that he has been deceived not just today, but for many, many years. That he has never been the true apprentice, that he has never been the heir to the power of the Sith. He has only been a tool. His whole life, all of his victories, all of his struggles, have only been a pathetic sham. He has existed for this. To be the victim of Anakin Skywalker's first cold-blooded murder. First, but not, he knows, the last. Although technically it's not the first one, he's killed some people before, but you get the point. Dooku is a phenomenal character played by a phenomenal actor. And while if these movies ever were to be remade, he would not be able to reprise his role because he sadly has passed away. But I just want justice for this character, man. The potential is there, it just needs to be brought back. I would argue two of the best things that the Clone Wars brought into the Star Wars universe are Darth Maul and Ahsoka. Darth Maul was already introduced in The Phantom Menace, but honestly, he was just kind of there for the cool factor. Which, no notes on that regard, he does phenomenal. But he talks, like, what, twice? And you don't get to see any of his personality, assuming he even has a personality. But Maul in the Clone Wars? Ooh, c'est magnifique. For those of you unaware, when Maul got chopped in half in Phantom Menace, he actually survived. According to StarWars.com, his hatred for Obi-Wan is actually the thing that kept him alive, which is like the most metal thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, if I was cut in half, I'd probably only think of Subway to keep me alive, because, you know. Ugh. And so Maul goes throughout the entire Clone Wars trying to incite revenge on Obi-Wan.
I am surprised you could have forgotten me so easily after I killed your master and you left me for dead on Naboo.
It is you.
I want to keep this entire storyline in the Clone Wars, but there's a few ways we can set up for it in the prequels. Just little things here and there, you know? How about this? Let's just give him a personality. What a concept. Good job, Luke. Nothing crazy, but let's just add a few more words, especially with Obi-Wan. That when he becomes fully fleshed out in the Clone Wars, we aren't so blindsided. Now for Ahsoka, she's absolutely phenomenal. When she's first introduced, she's very annoying. She's Anakin's anointed Padawan, and to put it bluntly, she's not a very good character. But she gets so much better as the show goes on. Similar to Maul, we're going to keep most of her storyline in the Clone Wars. But we'll see where we can put bits and pieces of that story into the prequels. Okay? We've gone over the main parts. Let's knock out these movies. I'm going to go through every single one of the prequels and tell you what things I would change here and there in the story. Some movies are going to have a lot of changes. Some movies are going to have little changes. But should be fun. So let's get started. Yippee! This movie's not going to change so much, because a lot of things that happen in the Clone Wars happen way after this movie takes place. I mean, there are a few important things here and there, but it's not going to be as crazy as the other movies. So let me just, give me a second. Let me just, okay, yeah, here we are. Okay, I'm going to change the, I think it's the, okay, there we go. Then we're going to go and fast forward, and, okay, here we go. Here's the first bit. So this seems pretty much going to be the same from the original movie, but with a few very small changes here and there. Maul's still going to show up out of nowhere, but this time he's actually going to talk. Whoa! Just something simple. Qui-Gon's still going to say his thing, like, who are you? What are you doing? Oh, whatever. And Maul from the Clone Wars is very mischievous. He has kind of the sense of superiority, but not necessarily from his ego, but more from his just insane power that he has. He knows he's more powerful than a lot of Jedi, and he knows a lot of things that the Jedi do not. So we still want the Maul from the Clone Wars, but he just hasn't gone insane yet. So this Maul's gonna say something along the lines of, "Oh, you Jedi, so arrogant in your Jedi ways. You don't know what's right under your noses." You know. Something like that. And I do want Maul to be winning the fight, and for him to have Qui-Gon on the back pedal the entire time. Because the Sith are back, and they are not to be trifled with. And that's it. That's all I want to add there. Just give our characters a little bit more backstory, a little bit more history before their final fight. So we're adding a whole scene here. So right after Qui-Gon Jinn talks to the Jedi Council, him and Obi-Wan go on a little walk outside and talk about what just happened. And I feel this is a great time to introduce the main villain of Attack of the Clones, Count Dooku. At this point, Dooku is no longer a Jedi. He has left the Order because he has lost faith in what the Jedi are doing. But that being said, he's still on good terms with the Jedi. He's invited back to the temple whenever he wants, even though right now he's secretly working for Darth Sidious. Shh, don't tell anyone. They don't know yet. Basically what we're doing is that we're grabbing the scene from Tales of the Jedi and we're plopping it right here. Dooku hears about Qui-Gon's encounter with the Sith and goes to talk to him about it, while also meeting his Padawan's new Padawan. There's a little small talk of Qui-Gon introducing Dooku and Obi-Wan, and he's excited to meet him. Dooku can say the same thing about how he's been warding the Council of the Sith for forever, and he can even explain that's why he left the Jedi, because he feels they've become too arrogant and too ignorant. And Qui-Gon agrees with Dooku. Qui-Gon has always been kind of an unconventional Jedi. He's a lot more interested in following the will of the Force than following the Jedi specifically. Because a lot of times, the will of the Force and the Jedi, they don't really overlap. And we can see that in the scene before. When the Council tells him that Anakin won't be trained, he's not happy about it. So while Qui-Gon doesn't completely disagree with the Council the way that Dooku does, he is still very sympathetic about what Dooku is saying. Anyways, Dooku warns Qui-Gon not to underestimate the Sith and to be careful. And Qui-Gon smiles and says that he'll be fine because now he has Obi-Wan. And with that, Dooku takes his leave, and that's it for Dooku in this movie. For now. Now this whole scene sets up quite a lot. When Dooku shows up in Attack of the Clones, we're no longer going to be jump scared. Now we've been introduced to this character, and while we haven't built a strong relationship with him, we still know of him and we're attached to him thanks to Qui-Gon. And now when Dooku and Obi-Wan talk on Geonosis, that conversation is going to have a lot more weight. So this fight is basically perfect. We're not going to add that much. Just a little banter between Maul and the two Jedi, but nothing crazy. But we have to make sure that after Qui-Gon Jinn gets killed, there should be no dialogue. It's just Obi-Wan wanting to get justice for his master. And the fight is crazy. I mean, that scene is perfect as it is. Just Obi-Wan being full of rage and anger and wanting to get revenge for his fallen master. And yeah, that's it. Nothing else. That's all we gotta do. Okay, one more Dooku scene. We're adding another Dooku scene. This is the last one, I promise. And this one again is from Tales of the Jedi. It's going to be the scene of Yaddle finding Dooku mourning the loss of Qui-Gon Jinn. Dooku is mourning. He is a defeated man. Any faith that Dooku once had in the Order is now gone thanks to the very preventable death of his Padawan. And this scene is necessary because it sets up his arc in Attack of the Clones. Placement-wise, I kind of want to put it at the very end of the movie. We all know that scene with the Gungan party where like they're going down the streets. You know, the music that goes da 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 da, and Boss Nass holds up that big ball of whatever. Did anyone else think that looks really good? Like that looks like some kind of candy. I would kill to eat that. Dude, they should put that in Galaxy's Edge. Bro, I'd eat the heck out of that. Where were we? Oh, that's right, the Dooku scene. Yeah, let's end this movie on a negative. While everyone else is celebrating, they do not realize that under their very noses, the Sith is growing in the darkness. I think that's a cool touch. I like that a lot. But yeah, that's Phantom Menace. Again, not too much has changed, but just enough to make a big difference for the movies to come. Is it a better movie? Probably. If not marginally. 3% better? But now it's time for the movie I've been dreading. Attack of the Clones. Okay, so while I've been making these movies, I've actually been tracking them on my Letterboxd, which you should totally go follow. There's my username. Check it out. And out of all these 3 movies I watched, I rated this one the lowest because it's that bad. Like, it is not a good movie. I mean, there's so much I could change, but I gotta stick to my rules. If it hasn't happened in the Clone Wars, I can't change it. I gotta stick to that. And I'm not a miracle worker, so it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the greatest movie ever. So let's buckle in. Yeah, let's just stay. Don't move. We're gonna buckle you in. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, you're all set. You're not, but it's the best I could do. Like I mentioned before, we're fixing the dialogue. I can't go over every single line of dialogue in this movie, or else this video would be 30 years long. Just imagine. But just imagine all the dialogue in this movie is written better, especially with Anakin. I talked about it in his section, but in the Clone Wars, Anakin is not this crazy, arrogant, stupid butt. He is sassy, don't get me wrong, but he's just a hero who wants to save as many people as he can. In these movies, he's just a stupid, arrogant jerk who's stupid. So here's what we're gonna do. Whenever Anakin is getting on your nerves in the prequels, just use your brain and imagine it's Clone Wars Anakin. Just kind of like, and boop, and there you go. We fixed it. I'm so good at my job. I'll go over specifics when I need to, but this is what we're going to keep in mind. So for some reason, Anakin just hates Obi-Wan in these movies. And for no gosh darn reason. I mean, to his credit, Obi-Wan's not the nicest guy in the world either. In all subsequent Star Wars media, their relationship is treated as if they were best friends, brothers, an inseparable bond.
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy. And a cunning warrior. And he was a good friend.
Which is funny because in this movie, their relationship is more like a dysfunctional uncle and a growth-stunted child. In the Clone Wars, the relationship is done so well. Anakin and Obi-Wan have a very different methodology of how to do things, but they both understand and respect each other's process. So Anakin, no more of this I hate Obi-Wan stuff. And Obi-Wan, no more of this Anakin is stupid stuff. You guys need to like each other. Why? So the audience likes you. If you guys don't like each other, the audience isn't going to like you. And if the audience isn't going to like you, then when one of you guys turn evil, we're not going to care. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to impact us in any meaningful way. So make up. Just kidding. One of the most important roles this movie has in the Star Wars universe is establishing relationships. We need to see Anakin and Obi-Wan become brothers, and Padme and Anakin fall in love believably, so that when the fall does happen, it hits us like a rock. So, Obi-Wan's going to be a bit more patient, and Anakin's going to be a bit more reserved. Still headstrong, just a little bit more reserved. So with that amendment we made earlier when Anakin's no longer a creep, all of a sudden the relationship between Padme and Anakin is a lot more plausible. Yeah, dude, Anakin's a smoking hot Jedi who just wants to save as many people as possible and is funny and charming. Who wouldn't fall in love with that? I think us as the audience would be mad if Padme didn't go after this version of Anakin, because how could you not? I mean, I would. I'm not into men, but like Hayden Christensen though? I'm just saying. I'm not stupid. So when Anakin and Padme are in the field and they have this little chat, I actually kind of like this chat. I like the idea of this chat. I like what the chat is supposed to be, but it needs to be fixed up. Anakin's whole bit of how he feels the system doesn't work is how he feels in the Clone Wars. He came from slavery. His travels with Obi-Wan have showed him how much everything in the universe sucks, and the people in power aren't doing anything to fix it.
The Jedi Code prevents them from going far enough to achieve victory, to do whatever it takes to win. The very reason why peacekeepers should not be leading a war. Have I offended you?
No. I've also found that we sometimes fall short of victory because of our methods.
So while this conversation in the field is going to be pretty similar to how it is in the original movie, there's going to be a few tweaks here and there. It's the same basic conversation, and the part where he tells Padme everyone should be forced to do the same thing could even be included. But then Padme would say, no, you can't do that, free will, all this stuff. Pretty similar to what she says in the movie. And Anakin can just kind of shrug it off and be like, yeah, nice stupid idea, I know. He has such a crush on Padme that he begrudgingly agrees with her. But that conflict is still there in Anakin, and it's eventually going to result in, well, I don't know if I can say it, because I don't want this video to be taken off of YouTube, but that. But for now, the seeds have been sown. The ideas have been planted. In this scene, we're going to flesh out Sifo-Dyas just a little bit. Sifo-Dyas was the Jedi that put together the creation of the clone army behind the Jedi's back. Sifo-Dyas was known for his visions of the future, and he had a vision that a huge war was coming and that the Jedi needed an army. He told the Jedi this, but they didn't believe him. They shrugged him off and called him a warmonger. They should really have a punch card for how many times they shrug off other people's ideas. Yeah, they'd have a whole coffee by now. Anyways, he started the creation of the clone army, but then was killed by his buddy, Dooku. And Dooku went back to the council and lied about it. There's more to the story than that, but that's for a different time. All this to say, Sifo-Dyas is a pretty important character in this story, but he's barely a footnote. Like, you don't even know what he looks like. Come on, guys, honestly. Raise your hand if you knew this guy existed. Oh. Actually, a few of you. Oh, not bad. My point still stands, though. So let's include Sifo-Dyas just a little bit more. Now when Obi-Wan hears this from the Kaminoans and tells Yoda and Windu, let's have them tell us a little of this story, or even show us a face. Or a flashback. We love a good flashback. And we can even add Dooku in the flashback, because remember, he's an actual character now that actually exists. I'm just saying, this is such an important part of the prequel story, and we can't just skip it. So before this point in the prequels, I don't want there to be a lot of signs of Anakin becoming a Sith. Because honestly, he's just a guy who wants to be a Jedi who came from a horrible situation. But this scene has to break Anakin. I personally believe this is the most important thing that happens in Anakin's life to turn him to the dark side. Because he lets revenge and anger take him over and he cannot control it. This might be a weird thing to add, but I want like a 3-minute scene of Anakin just going crazy killing these Tuskens. And after this murderous rampage, he just stops and falls to his knees and screams out in pain and agony. This way we can see the evil within him, but not only the evil, but how powerful he becomes when he lets anger and rage take him over. But when he gets back to Padme, anger is not the emotion we want. We've already seen that. It's guilt and sorrow. This way we can see how susceptible he is to the dark side. What happens when he let anger and pain control him. See, the thing is, Anakin is not yet evil, unlike the prequels would want you to believe. He's not just a Sith Lord from day one. He's just a kid. A scared and alone kid. And thanks to this, Anakin has gotten a taste of the dark side. Part of it is in him now, and from here going forward, he will be okay killing people if he needs to, because he never wants to feel this pain again. We'll leave Anakin's more killing and how he deals with it to the Clone Wars, but for now, he's just a kid who for the first time has had anger and hatred control him. For the first time let the dark side control him. And this will not be the last. Padme's response to this is going to be almost motherly. She just wants to comfort her friend who's in grave pain and wants to be there for him. Is she okay with the killing? No. But I feel if this scene is done right, Padme won't see him as a psycho who murdered a bunch of people for the fun of it. She will see a kid who's in pain and regrets their decision. Because that's what we'll see. But now Anakin knows and has felt what it is like to have people in his life die, people he loves die, and he will not let it happen again. So this scene is incredibly important, and it's probably my favorite scene in the Attack of the Clones. First and foremost, clean up the writing. Obviously. Please, for the love of God, make him talk like actual humans. Please. Side note, I actually prefer Christopher Lee's performance in the prequels of Count Dooku, compared to the Clone Wars. I think he's a lot funnier here. I think he's better. So there you go. I'm not completely crapping on these movies. So now Obi-Wan and Dooku actually have a connection because they already met. Obi-Wan still sees Dooku as a traitor, but Dooku does not see it that way. He's honestly pretty empathetic towards Obi-Wan and kind of extends an olive branch towards him. He says, "Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you this because I know Qui-Gon saw great potential in you and I want to honor his memory. The Sith, he exists in the Senate and he's right under everyone's noses and is controlling everything from behind the scenes. The Jedi, they're too blind to see anything or do anything about it. Qui-Gon knew it, but Qui-Gon is... It was too late for him because of the Council not taking him seriously. But us? We could actually do something. Join me, and we can rule." Inherently, Obi-Wan cannot agree to this because he's a goody two-shoes. You can still see that Dooku is being earnest. It's not that he doesn't believe him because his story's crazy. It's because he just can't. I mean, the idea of the Sith being in control of everything right under the Jedi's noses, it's unfathomable. Unfathomable. Unbelievable. Obi-Wan has too much faith in the Jedi. But that being said, in this conversation, he will never forget it. It will always be at the back of his mind. Okay, this is more of a minor thing, but the clones look really generic in Attack of the Clones. In the show, they have so much more personality and charm, so let's just give them a little bit of that. I don't know, show their individuality. Like, hey, let's have Gree be with Yoda when he pulls up. Why not? I mean, it doesn't have to be super fan-servicey, but if you really want to go the extra mile, have Rex be in the ship with Obi-Wan when him and Anakin are flying. I don't know. Just give him a smidge of that personality we see in the Clone Wars. Just a smidge. Like when they first show up, just have him be like, "Let's get them, boys! Destroy these clankers!" This is supposed to be our first big introduction to the clones, so let's make it a good one. And then maybe you'll be like, "Oh my goodness, these clones are so cool and interesting. I would love to watch a whole TV show about them." So yeah, that's all the major changes I want to make to Attack of the Clones. It's not perfect, but I feel like it's an improvement, I'm not a miracle worker, but it's a little better. Again, marginally. And then timeline-wise, you have the Clone Wars series, which we're not touching on here. Just go watch it real quick. I'll be here when you get back, okay? Just go. Okay, good. How'd you like it? Did you think it was great? I told you, right? It's an amazing show. Yeah, I know that the astromech arc is pretty boring, but you know what? You get some winners, you get some losers. It is what it is. The lighting's probably different now because the video takes so long to record. I've been recording since 4:30. It's currently 7:30. I'm very tired. Okay. I absolutely love this movie. It's so good. I mean, it's not good, but it's so good. Oh, I love this movie. The big focus of this movie is going to be Anakin's final push to the dark side. Because at this point, Anakin should be pretty pissed off about everything the Jedi have been doing. And the Jedi should be a bit more aware of the whole Sidious plot, so that way, when Sidious is revealed, it's not really a big shock to anyone. But while going in and adjusting this movie, there was one thing that I was being very aware of, and I'm calling it Maul syndrome. Basically, if you've seen Solo: A Star Wars Story, you know how at the end, Darth Maul shows up for like 5 seconds. If you've seen Rebel or Clone Wars, you're like freaking out. You're like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. But if you've only seen the Star Wars movies, your reaction is probably more akin to, I thought you were dead. I mean, in the last movie, this guy didn't even talk. What's he doing now? What the heck? This scene is awesome for the fanboys, but it alienated so much of just casual moviegoers, and I want to try to avoid that. I really want to add Ahsoka into this movie because she is such an important character in Anakin's storyline, but I don't want it to feel out of place or make no sense if you've never seen the Clone Wars. But also, I'm a fanboy and I love Ahsoka, so we'll see how it goes. So yeah, let's dive into these changes. Okay, I know in the last movie I said how much I hated just pushing things into the title crawl, but we're doing it here. Don't get mad, it's just a little thing, I promise. I'm literally just adding this to the last paragraph, just a little boop, that's it, that's all I want to do. I really want to add Ahsoka into this movie, but I don't want to blindside the audience too much. So instead of saying what it says in the last paragraph, it's going to say this instead. After an emotional meeting with Anakin's old Padawan Ahsoka Tano, Anakin and Obi-Wan rush to Coruscant in a desperate mission to save the Chancellor. See, that wasn't that bad, right? Ahsoka's going to show up later in this movie, and I don't want the audience to be whiplash. So, there you go. That's it. That's all I'm doing. So in this scene where Anakin kills Dooku, Palp tells him to do it, but Anakin's all hesitant, like, I don't know, which was always so weird to me. Because from everything we've seen in the Clone Wars, this makes absolutely no sense. Dude, Anakin kills people like it's going out of business. So in my adjustment, Anakin has the 2 lightsabers at Dooku's throat and is about to kill him. Palpatine doesn't say a word because he doesn't need to. Anakin's a killer and he kills evil people. But instead, Obi-Wan's gonna wake up, if not briefly, and say, Anakin, don't, we need him alive. Anakin really wants to kill this guy, and if it wasn't for Obi-Wan, he probably would have already. Maybe there's a little conflict in him, but not much. But then Palpatine chimes in and says, oh, remember all the things you've done. Remember when he cut off your arm, you want to get revenge. And yes, he can say, do it. And Anakin doesn't know this, but Palpatine also wants to tie up all loose ends. He doesn't want Dooku to squeal. And with that, it should be Anakin wants to kill and hesitates, and not the other way around. So after the scene where Anakin is denied going after Grievous, I want to cut to the scene of the Clone Wars of Obi-Wan talking to Ahsoka over the hologram. Ugh. In the Clone Wars, it's from the perspective of Ahsoka, but this time let's have it be the other way around. Let's have it be from the perspective of Obi-Wan. They can talk about what they talk about, Ahsoka's captured Maul, the mention of Lord Sidious, but the important part is the solo conversation they have. How Anakin has to spy on Palpatine, and how Ahsoka doesn't like it. Because these are 2 best friends who both love Anakin and want the best for him. So showing the opinion that the Jedi aren't always right, that they're doing something actively wrong, and how it might affect Anakin negatively, it's quite important for the emotional payoff. Again, it connects us more with Anakin. Not only how the characters in the movie are going to be emotionally destroyed, but how we're going to be emotionally destroyed. Tissues and weighted plushie stocks about to go crazy, baby. So we're changing up this talk just a little bit. This talk is basically Palpatine saying, hey, the Jedi Council's hiding a bunch of stuff from you about the Force. He says, let me teach you about the Force. And Anakin says, oh, how do you know about the Force? And Palpatine says, oh, my master told me about the Force, even the dark side. And Anakin's like, the dark side, the Force, what? How do you know? Idiot. Dude, at this point, Palpatine's being a Sith Lord should not be a shock to anyone, especially Anakin. Palpatine and Anakin have always been very close, and we've seen in the Clone Wars that Anakin is very perceptive. He's not an idiot. And after the Dark Plague gets the wise talk, Anakin should be like 90% sure he's a Sith. Because Sheev wasn't really being subtle, but at the same time, he wasn't really trying to be either. Also, you might not know this, but this guy's first name is Sheev. I didn't know this either until like a month ago, so there you go. And that's the important thing about this talk. Palpatine is telling Anakin everything he wants to hear. You will be much more powerful, you're deserving of so much more. The Jedi are hiding so much from you and using you like a pawn. You can save your wife from the death you've been dreaming of. Anakin shouldn't even take out his lightsaber because he doesn't feel like he's in any danger. This whole bit of I would certainly like to kill you stuff is stupid, but he does feel that Palpatine still needs due process, so he goes to Windu, but this will be the most conflicted Anakin has ever been. Him being fed up with the Jedi has come to a boiling point. He has no idea what to do. Until now. Now he finally does. He's finally been given a way out, a way to change everything, a way to save everyone. So in the Clone Wars, you don't really see Palpatine fighting a lot. He's usually doing political type stuff. But there is one scene where he does fight, and it is freaking insane. So in the Clone Wars, Maul builds up this underground empire, and it becomes so big that our good old boy Palpatine senses it and starts to take notice. He can't have some other Sith spreading the bad news of the Sith and tainting his name. Come on, that's his job. So Palpatine goes to Mandalore himself to settle this, and it's freaking insane. He takes on both Maul and his brother at the same time and just wipes the floor with them. He's keeping them on their toes, but you can tell he's just playing with them. He's barely taking this fight seriously. He kills Savage easily and basically tortures Maul until he begs for mercy. No, scratch that, sorry. While he's begging for mercy. And he fights both of them with 2 lightsabers, which is just freaking sick. So let's put the elements of this fight into the fight where the Jedi go to arrest Palpatine. The first thing is that Palpatine knows there's no actual threat for him in this room. If he can defeat Yoda, the only person that possibly stands a chance is Windu. So with that in mind, we're going to make this battle last a little bit longer. And what's a better way of him showing his power than having him fight 4 Jedi at once? In the Maul fight, he force chokes 2 Mandalorians while only moving his hand like a little bit, so maybe he force chokes 1 Jedi while fighting 3 others. And he has his 2 lightsabers, of course. But we need to keep the part where he almost dies against Windu, because Anakin saving him to convert him to the dark side is muy importante. Again, I believe Palpatine can pretty easily defeat Windu, but he knows Anakin is coming, and he knows Anakin needs that one final push. The fact that Anakin needs them, on top of the heartbreak of Windu not granting him the rank of Master, is just what Anakin needs to finish the job. We've already seen so many times that Anakin has no issue killing people, so let's have Anakin be the one to kill Windu. Or bare minimum distract him so Palpy can stab him in the chest. Because that whole "what have I done" scene, we're getting rid of that. If there was a meter of how much Darkseid was in Anakin at this point, it'd be like at 99. It's basically boiling over. This scene and this moment is just the breeze to knock over the Jenga tower that has been going on for far too long. And right after Anakin does that, there's a scene of Yoda feeling the disturbance in the Force where he topples over. Because Anakin is now officially a Sith. But Yoda's not going to be the only one who feels this. There's a scene in the Clone Wars where Ahsoka also feels this disturbance in the Force. So we're putting in that scene too. And I know it's not on the show, but if you really want to go the extra mile, you can even have Obi-Wan feeling that disturbance in the Force. Because, they're besties. Yeah, maybe right before Cody gets the Order 66 message. Speaking of... So Order 66 is one of the most important scenes of all in Star Wars. But I would argue it's only as good as it is thanks to all the extended media. When it was first released, the reaction was kind of just, oh, okay, all these Jedi I don't really know are dying. Bummer, right? But thanks to the extended universe, all these Jedi that we've been growing an emotional attachment to are being brutally murdered. And thanks to the shows and video games, even new Jedi that we've gotten attached to. So you know what? Screw it. Let's just add some stuff in. Let's twist that knife. Stuff like Ahsoka being attacked on the ship, Barriss seeing it from her cell, the clones attacking Kanan's master. Heck, if you're even feeling crazy, put in the Baby Yoda stuff. Because this is such a universe-affecting event, you should be able to feel it throughout the entire universe. So the big change for this scene is how Anakin's going to go about this conversation. In the movie, he's just so angry and nothing he's doing is making sense for his character. I know the dark side's supposed to cloud your judgment and emphasize your anger, but do you ever see Dooku or Maul act like this? No, because they would look stupid. So why is he doing it? I don't get it. So instead of Anakin just being full out angry, especially at Obi-Wan, let's just say he's more trying to convince them. Change their mind, convince them to join him, convince them to, basically join the dark side. Picture it this way, the duo fly down on the ship and both rush to meet Anakin on Mustafar. Anakin should be excited to see them and say, hey, guys, I finally found the answer. I've done it. You know the Republic is flawed. You've seen how many people have died thanks to it. Look what happened to Ahsoka. I finally found a way to stop this. I am finally more powerful than any Jedi, even Yoda. But Palpatine showed me I can stop people from dying. The Jedi never saw my strength. Join me, we can do this together. Obi-Wan and Padme both look at each other and just say, what are you talking about? At this point, Padme and Obi-Wan should see that their friend/lover doesn't exist anymore. Yes, we know that the Jedi are flawed, but killing younglings? This isn't the solution. I know, but the Jedi are an infection. We have to get rid of any semblance of it. Obi-Wan takes out his lightsaber and says, Anakin, I can't let you do this. Heck, in the Clone Wars, Padme isn't a pushover. She's awesome. She's not stupid. She should see that the Anakin that she fell in love with doesn't exist anymore. And this might be a crazy take, but the person who takes the first shot at Anakin shouldn't be Obi-Wan in my opinion, but Padme. She shoots him with a blaster and Anakin deflects it or stops it with the Force or something. And out of his anger, he pushes Padme back and she knocks her head and knocks out unconscious. Immediately realizing what he's done, Anakin rushes to her, but Obi-Wan steps in between them and the battle begins. Little side note, so this fight happens, but there's not really much I can do about it. Nothing really comes from the Clone Wars which I can change the outcome or how the battle happens, so I'm just saying I don't like it, because I don't like it. This fight's stupid. Okay, so this fight's amazing. We all know this fight's amazing. So we're not going to change the fight itself. We're just going to overhaul the writing. I mentioned it at the beginning, but this might be one of my most hated lines in all of cinema. Let me paint you a picture. So we have this cool fight scene on this lava planet, and everyone is at the edge of their seats. Obi-Wan is a broken man because his Padawan, no, his best friend, has fallen to the dark side. Obi-Wan tells him that he has failed him because that's genuinely how he feels. He's failed Anakin as a master, as a Jedi, as his brother. And what does Anakin say to this heartbreaking, destroying line? I should have known the Jedi are evil. I'm unrelated, but okay. And Obi-Wan tells him that Palpatine is evil, that he's being manipulated. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. I'm sorry, are we in a caucus? Is this the model United Nations? What was that? Just change the line, please. Please just change the line. Just have him say something like, the Republic has failed you, and you just can't see it. You are blinded by the Jedi as I once was. Join me, Obi-Wan. Together we can change everything. We can become more powerful than any Jedi. Together we can rule the galaxy. Everything that has happened between us, Obi-Wan, has led to this moment. And then I realized something. While writing this bit, I realized that this conversation sounded very familiar to me. I know I've heard it somewhere, but I couldn't remember where I was getting inspiration from. Then it hit me. Subconsciously, I was referencing some of the most well-written and amazing dialogue in all the Star Wars canon, and that is the final talk that Ahsoka has with Maul on Mandalore. For those who haven't seen the Clone Wars, Maul has a premonition, almost like a vision of what is happening. That Palpatine is behind everything. He has been from the beginning, and he's about to reveal himself and change the very state of the galaxy.
Too late? For what? The Republic to fall? It already has, and you just can't see it. There is no justice, no law, no order, except for the one that will replace it.
It's too late. The Jedi have already lost. Palpatine's plan is finished. But together, they might have a chance to stop him. The dynamics of this talk are being mirrored on Mustafar. Anakin has seen the truth. He knows Palpatine's power. He knows he's already won, and there's nothing the Jedi can do about it. But with Obi-Wan, maybe something can be done. Something greater, something grander. Maybe there can be a power that even Palpatine can't stop. But Obi-Wan, he just can't. He can't fall to the dark side. After everything he's seen and been through and lost, he knows the Force. And he knows this is not the way. This fight will continue, and as silly as it might sound, we're keeping the high ground bit. Anakin feels immortal, like he's already won. Like nothing can be done to change that. But through his arrogance and pride, Obi-Wan deals the final blow. And Obi-Wan talking to a burning Anakin, well, nothing needs to be changed about that. Just a small addition, I really want to see Ahsoka at Padme's funeral. They were the closest of friends. It would be weird if she wasn't there. We don't need the full scene of her and Bale talking, just her in the background. It's fine.
This is Master Obi-Wan Kenobi.
At the end of Revenge of the Sith, I just want a little clip of Obi-Wan making a recording on a holocron. And it's his recording from Rebels. So in Rebels, there's this phenomenal little speech from Obi-Wan, and you may have seen it in a bunch of sick Clone Wars edits on TikTok. And I want this to be the last thing you hear while watching Revenge of the Sith. Because by all means, this movie's a tragedy. But his message is so hopeful, to never give up, to never lose hope in the Force. And we could put in a compilation of this hope. Rex and Ahsoka, the Bad Batch, Luke and Leia, Kanan, whoever. Just to show that as long as there are people who are still fighting against the dark side, who still believe in each other, who still do not give up hope, there will be something.
Trust in the Force.
And that's something you can't really get rid of.
May the Force be with you, always.
And there you go. That's how it changed the prequels. Would you look at that? I really hope you guys like this video. This video took way longer to script out than my last one because I had to do so much research about Star Wars. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything or mixing up something, which I probably still did because, you know, it's Star Wars and I'm not perfect. Which if I didn't miss or mix up something, just let me know down in the comments. Just don't be mean. I'm very sensitive. And all things considered, I think it's turned out pretty good. Will Disney remake the prequels? It's hard to say. I don't know. The future of Star Wars right now is all over the place. I don't think there's ever a world where we don't get new Star Wars stuff, but what the new stuff will be, who's to say? If they do end up remaking the prequels, I hope it turns out something like this. Because Anakin's turn to the dark side is so well done, considering everything. It's so well written, so just like comprehensive. It's really, really good. But it has like 5 billion asterisks on it. It's not perfect, far from it. But in the meantime, we can always just rewatch Clone Wars. And maybe I'll eventually watch Rebels. But don't count on it. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.